It was Christmas time. I was 14 years old. My family and I were going ice skating one evening. My family consisted of my two younger brothers, my mom, and my stepfather. I had invited my girlfriend to come with us, and we were just waiting on her to show up at our house so that we could leave. She eventually made it over, and we all piled into an SUV and headed downtown. The ice skating rink was packed, as it was only open at Christmas time, and it was 8 o'clock on a Saturday. After driving around the rink a few times, we found a parking spot. We all started walking over to it, and as we walked, I saw that all the lights went off in the skating rink, and for about 1 minute, green and red black lights were lighting the whole place up. It was pretty cool, I thought, and I was looking forward to getting my skates on. They were serving hot cocoa right next door in a little booth. My little brothers wanted some, and so my parents jumped in line, while my girlfriend and I headed to the window where we could rent some skates. There was no line here, and we got our skates pretty quickly. We sat down on the bench near the window to put our ice skates on. My girlfriend had never been ice skating before, and she was nervous. She was afraid she would fall, but I told her it's really not that difficult. We got to our feet with our skates now on and walked over to the skating rink. Before we stepped onto it to begin skating, suddenly the lights switched to the dark green and red black light again. You could barely see when the lights switched, and people were running into each other all over the place. Some people fell down. It was a cool idea to have the lights switch to green and red for the holiday, but whoever set it up made a mistake. They made the lights way too dark. My girlfriend told me to wait for the lights to switch back on, and so we did. A minute later, the normal lights popped back on, and we stepped onto the ice. My girlfriend skated awkwardly for a few minutes, but got the hang of it fairly quickly, and we were soon flying around the rink. After about 6 laps, the lights went out again, but this time, it seemed to me that it was even darker than before. My girlfriend grabbed my arm and clung to me as we tried not to run into anyone. As we skated in the near darkness, she asked me, "It's getting darker, don't you think?" I agreed, and the lights popped back on again. We sighed with relief and continued skating. As we made our way around, we passed a man wearing a dark red trench coat that was about to step onto the ice to skate. He had the dark red hood over his head, and it covered most of his face. After noticing him, I looked around for my family and spotted them sitting down on the benches, drinking their hot cocoa. I looked over to my girlfriend who had broken away from my arm, and she looked nervous. I skated closer to her and asked her if she wanted to get off the ice. She said no, but was worried about when the lights flipped to the dark green and red again. She was worried that they would flip off completely and leave everyone in complete darkness. As if on cue, the lights switched off, and they switched off completely. My girlfriend gasped, along with many other people around us. For the briefest of moments, everyone was quiet, and it was pitch black. It was an incredibly eerie feeling. Then, suddenly, I heard a woman scream. Then I heard commotion. The woman's screams were silenced, and then heard a man yell in a similar way, like they had just been really hurt by something. My girlfriend and I ran into a group of people, and we all fell to the ice. She started calling my name, and I could hear the fear in her voice. People were falling all around us, and then I heard another woman scream. This scream was piercing, and I knew at that moment that something was very wrong. The woman continued to scream when I suddenly heard another woman scream bloody murder. At this point, I could hear noises of frantic people falling, moving, screaming, and trying to escape the ice rink. I tried to stand up, but was hit by people in all directions, and my hands were sliding across the ice as I crawled. It felt like razor blades. I was hyperventilating when suddenly I felt an extreme pain in the tip of my middle finger on my right hand. and realized that somebody had skated across it. I stopped crawling and heard yet another ear-piercing scream of agony and terror. I started calling my girlfriend's name, but didn't get a response. Somebody then skated into me, their knee hitting my face hard. I fell flat onto the ice, and my breath was taken away when I felt random people topple onto me, one person landing onto my stomach. As they all tried to separate from each other and myself, I felt an ice skate slice my thigh. I started crawling again fast, and I could feel my finger pulsating as blood gushed from the wound. I hit a wall, and I remember feeling the tiniest relief. I called my girlfriend's name again, but once again, got no response in the midst of screams and frantic mayhem. It sounded as if everyone was screaming now, and I thought that I might have a heart attack. I stuck to the side of the wall and attempted to stand up onto my skates again. I reached my feet and started coughing. I felt somebody clip my back as they skated by me, and then suddenly I felt pain. Pain in my back. Monumental pain. The worst pain I have ever felt. At first, I thought somebody had somehow cut my back with an ice skate, but I reached back with my arm to feel the wound. Somebody then crashed into me, and I fell to the ice once more. Tears poured from my eyes, and screams erupted from all around me. I reached my arm back again to feel the wound, and I felt it. Somebody had stabbed me. My breathing started to get heavy, and a full breath was difficult to achieve. The pain was growing more intense, and I felt panic set in, as it felt like the pain would not reach a stopping point, and it would just increase and increase. Suddenly, I heard another scream. It was mine. My screams joined the rest, and I began sobbing in between the screams. I started crawling once more, but I couldn't move as I did before. My muscles were becoming weaker, and I felt as if I were falling asleep. I moved slowly, and could feel thick syrupy liquid wherever I put my hands on the ice. I knew it was blood, and I suddenly began coughing, with no control, and I didn't stop. I put my hand over my mouth and stopped crawling. I felt blood coming up out of my throat as I coughed, and it started to block my nasal passage, and I could barely breathe. The screams were absolutely ear-shattering at this point. I lay on my back and started to shiver. After a few moments, I felt people fall and trip over me once again, and I flipped over onto my stomach. After this, I looked up, and I could see small beams of light all over the place. And then I heard people speaking. It was the police, I thought to myself. They were running and tripping over people, trying to get people out, trying to help. I put my arm up and said the word, help, but nothing came out. I couldn't say the word. I dropped my arm back to the ice and felt my eyes start to close. I cleared my throat, full of blood, and coughed it onto the ice. Everything at that moment went black. I awoke in a hospital bed. 24 people were murdered on the ice skating rink that night. My girlfriend included.